I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to the second episode of Canti Potter, where I will be reading the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone Chapter 2 and 3. This podcast is an audio diary that I am maintaining while reading through this series for the second time. As these chapters were short, I was able to get through them quickly. Let's start with Chapter 2, The Vanishing Glass. Again, I feel like I'm kinda repeating myself, but as for this chapter also, I felt that I forgot most of the things that had happened in the book. We had a time jump of almost 10 years. In this chapter, we were introduced to Dudley, who was described by Harry as a pig in a wig, and Harry himself was small and skinny for his age, with black hair and bright green eyes. He was also only given Dudley's old clothes to wear, and his round glasses were held together with a lot of sellotapes because of the times Dudley has punched on his nose. So clearly we can see Harry is not in a safe place. The only thing that Harry liked about his appearance was a thin scar on his forehead which was shaped like a lightning. Might be he's the Thor and J.K. Rowling is telling a story of Thor. It's the origin of Thor that Marvel has forgotten. Uh, okay, that's a bad joke. Okay, I'll come back to the series. Sorry for that. Now, J.K. Rowling explained about his aunt. So, his aunt, that is Aunt Petunia, is horse-faced, who used to tell him that he got this scar from an accident where his parents died. The narrator, through the behavior of the Dudleys towards Harry, was able to convey that how miserable the state of Harry was and how he was forced to live there. And they were treating him literally like a stay-at-home servant. That's something that we established pretty quickly within the second chapter itself. Nobody would be able to figure out that Harry lives with them, for he sleeps in the cupboard under the stairs in a small dark space infested with spiders. And Harry was used to spiders and he was not afraid of them. This reminded me of spiders. Spider-Man, spiders. We are in a Marvel tangent, I think so. So, spiders. I wonder why. Why not butterflies? Why only spiders? Also, how could I forget the perfect birthday of Dudders, Icky Duckings, or we can call him Diddy Kings? On the day of Diddy King's birthday, Harry is awakened by his Aunt Petunia, telling him to tend to the bacons immediately because obviously it's Dudley's perfect birthday and everything should be perfect. Dudley, in fact, of all this, gets upset because he has only 37 presents, one fewer than the previous year. So Harry was so used to it that instead of wondering why this pig with a wig or pig on a wig, whatever he calls him, get 37 gifts, he was wondering why he got a racing bike. But here I was wondering what he will do with a second television set. I don't know, like, isn't one enough? What he will do with the second? I don't know. It boggles my mind. Okay. One thing that was pretty much explained that there were few rules that living with Dudley's were that would help Harry to live his life peacefully, and one rule of living with the Dudleys that Harry has to follow was don't ask questions. He never knew anything about his parents. He was just told that they had died in a car accident. I want you all to just imagine a growing child with the curiosity that we know that the children have, because they have a lot of questions to ask. Like they would be asking why water is transparent in color, why there are stars in the sky. They might have millions of questions. The growing children definitely has these type of questions, but he was never allowed to ask any of these questions, and if asked, he was shut down immediately. So, can you imagine what this would have done to him and how that might have affected his whole life? After reading this passage, I understood no wonder this series took 7 books to be completed. So, are you confused? Like, why I said that? How this small thing would be a reason why this series took 7 books to complete? Just stay with me through this course of the journey, and I would point out the instances where Harry didn't ask questions that were necessary, which could have saved him all the troubles and which could have resulted this series of books ending within, I think so, 2 or 3 books. So just stay with me. Because of these 10 years of toxic grooming, there's a lot of consequences that Harry had to face just because of these Dursleys. So once again, coming back to the chapter where Dudley had opened his birthday gifts. After he had opened his birthday gifts, they were supposed to go to the zoo with Dudley and his friends. Here I remembered, like, Dudley didn't had any friend in the movies with whom he went to the zoo. So in movies it was just Dudley, Mr. Vernon, Petunia and Harry. So here he also had a friend. While they went to the zoo, Harry was supposed to be looked after by Mrs. Fig. She is a cat lady, as Harry used to call her, but today she was not able to look after Harry because she broke her leg. I came up with various imaginations like how she could have broken her leg, and she being a cat lady. Only thing that came to my mind was, I think so, a cauldron might have fallen on her leg and it resulted in breaking her leg. So let's see. Dursleys didn't want to leave Harry alone at their home or in Vernon's car. They consider Harry as a pet whom they should leave in a car. Okay, now backtracking and thinking, why would one leave their pet also in a car? I don't know. Why? One thing that I realized, like after reading this part for the second time as an adult, I somewhat understand the reasoning that why these Dursleys might have an apprehension of leaving Harry alone, because weird things tend to happen to Harry. For instance, his hair grew back overnight. He would suddenly appear on the roof after being chased by Dudley's gang in school, and one time he shrunk a horrible jumper that Aunt Petunia tried to get him to wear. Because of all these things and the knowledge that he was the child of a wizard, I genuinely believe that Dursleys were somewhat afraid of Harry, and this was one of the reasons why they were this distant to him. And also, yeah, there is a reason that Petunia is a bit kind of jealous of Lily. Apart from this, not to mention the dreams that Harry has. So during one morning at the Dursleys, Harry woke up in his cupboard from a good dream about a flying motorbike, one he felt like he had been in before. To be fair, he kind of had, except it had been real. So it's a real memory when Hagrid first took him to the Dursleys as a baby on Sirius Black's enchanted motorbike. So this is a dream that's kind of real, but even before Harry knew he was a wizard, the magic in his life had already started peeping into his subconscious. Now we will talk about one more example of a dream where he saw a blinding green light and there was an excruciating pain on his forehead near his skull, and he assumed that this is somewhat related to the car crash in which his parents died. One thing that I want you all to like think about is, in this whole series of Harry Potter, dreams do play a very important role in this series. Like, I can even say that there are differences between people being dead and alive just based on dreams. I think so. JK has said everything about the dreams from here, like the chapter 2 of the very first book. Let's come back from that tangent to the book where we are currently. Like the thing about the Dursleys and them being afraid from Harry is such a trivial thing that I thought I should mention. Now we will come back to zoo. While in the zoo, Vernon bought Dudley and his friend Pierce Polkins. What a name! So Vernon bought Dudley and his friend Pierre Polkis a chocolate ice cream, and he bought Harry also one, only when the server was looking at them kind of suspiciously and funny, like, you have a kid at the back of your car and aren't you not planning to buy anything to give to that kid? They were perfectly normal people and they didn't wanted to like show that they are showing us so much prejudice towards a child sitting at the back of the car. So they had to buy something for Harry. He was given a lemon ice lolly, something related to Albus Dumbledore's sherbet lemon, what he was having in chapter 1. Once they were inside the zoo, the infamous scene happened, where Harry looks at the snake enclosed in a cupboard type of prison behind a glass, sitting all day while annoying visitors like Dudley tap their fingers against the glass. The snake winks at Harry and he winks back. Why wouldn't we? We all would wink back to a snake if it winks to us, right? We won't be afraid, we won't run away from it, we will wink back at it. Harry was surprised that he was able to have a conversation with that snake. Noticing that the snake was moving, Pierce, the great friend of Dudley, calls him over. Dudley runs over, pushes Harry aside to take a better look of snake. Suddenly, the glass disappears between the boy and the snake, and they fell into the place where boa constrictor was. We can call it a chamber or a prison or I don't know anything. And the boys fell into it while the boa constrictor slithers out into the floor. It said, "Thanks, Harry," and eventually it escapes to Brazil from where it really was. Through all this, one thing I was thinking, was the snake speaking in English or was it Harry speaking in some other weird snake language? One more masterful thing that J.K. Rowling did in the first 2 chapters was that she introduced us readers into quite a deal of overt magic, like Professor McGonagall's transformation into a cat, Harry not recognizing his magic when he sees it, even though it's his own magic that released the boa constrictor in the zoo to his enemies. Here we could see a type of magic that Harry is doing, but he is not able to realize that he is doing it. Now we can see like how magic is slowly coming into being a normal thing while in the first 2 chapters, because she wanted us to ease into this magical world before she gives us a lot of magical points to reference to. So that's something I really liked, like how she actually did it. And one more thing that I really like is that Harry's is progressively comprehending that how good of a magician he is throughout this series. Like at first, he is at total ignorance to the awareness that there is magic. Then he gets a bit more understanding about the magic, and then as the series goes around, he becomes a master at the skill of being a magician. So that's something I would say is something that Rowling did pretty well. And now, since the second chapter is over, now let's go to the letter from no one. Here, we started with the aftermath of the boa constrictor event in the zoo, due to which Harry earned the longest ever punishment. And because of this, he missed his school and it was the summer vacations. Here, I felt something odd. I didn't want to complain, be someone who just keeps on complaining because I really like this series, but there are things that just caught me off guard as an adult. So I was like, what? Did this child miss the school? And the authorities didn't even care to like come and ask or have an inquiry about like where this child is. Okay, I'm out of words over here. I don't know how to comprehend this, but yeah, it's a fantasy novel designed for children who are like 8 to 9 years old. So yeah, okay, we could just brush past this particular instance. In the next paragraph, they explained how both these children were going to the secondary school, and as expected, they are sending Dudley to Uncle Vernon's school, Smelding, which I believe is a good one because rather than sending Harry to it, they were sending Harry to Stonewall Hill, and that's expected to be a bad one because that's what the Dursleys are. It's nothing surprising for me. And yes, here's something now that comes around that I really liked about the J.K. Rowling writing throughout this series, and that's what I something that I mentioned in chapter one to look out for these sassy characters because J.K. Rowling has a sassy type of writing which seeps into her characters. So here's the first example of it. To give a perfect example of this particular instance, I have to read it word by word from the book to make it sound more authentic and better. So let me get into that Dudley voice. They stuff people's head down the toilet first day at Stonewall. Dudley told Harry, "Want to come upstairs and practice?" "No thanks," said Harry. "The poor toilets never had anything as horrible as your head down it. It might be sick." Okay, this is that particular sentence, and I apologize for the bad impression that I made of Dudley and Harry because I'm trying my best to keep this thing as entertaining as possible because otherwise there would be a guy who is just reading things off the books and it won't be like as interesting for you all who are listening to it. So I'm trying my best and sorry if this puts someone off guard. So yeah, again coming back to the chapter, I'm just fanboying of these sassy characters that we have, and like I said, there is one character who is my favorite, and that character is also someone who just keeps on giving these sassy lines throughout whenever they are having a conversation. Let's see when we will get to that character. I won't tell that character, but you can just mail me like who you think is my favorite character. And while you're mailing me my favorite character, you can also mail me what house do you think I am from. So I will be telling you about my house and my favorite character during the last book. But till then, let's see who gets it correct. Now we got to know how Mrs. Fig broke her leg. She had broken her leg tripping over one of her cats, and now she didn't seem quite as fond of them as she was before. But my answer was wrong that she had broken her leg due to a cauldron. But yeah, let's see. Let's zoom into the next important scene in this chapter where Harry was sent by Uncle Vernon to fetch the letters. So when he went to fetch the letters, there were three of these letters. A postcard from Uncle Vernon's sister Marge, who was holidaying on the Isle of Wight. If I'm pronouncing it right, it's called Isle of Wight. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The second letter was a brown envelope that looked like a bill, and third, it was a letter for Harry. So Harry thought who would send him letter, as Dursleys were his only relatives and he had no friends in the whole wide world. So once again, I just want you all to imagine a 10-year-old child thinking like this and what he must be feeling every day when he knows that he has to go through the torment that the Dursleys are putting him through. There was no mistake that this letter was specifically addressed to Harry, as it said, "Mr. H. Potter, the cupboard under the stairs, 4 Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey." Harry went back to the kitchen with the letters, and of course, there's no surprise. Uncle Vernon snatched the letter out of Harry's hand, but once he read the letter, his expression changed. When he saw this letter, His expression change was so priceless that I again have to quote the book. His face went from red to green faster than a set of traffic lights, and it didn't seem to stop there. Within seconds, it was greyish white of an old porridge. The letter made both no-necked Uncle Vernon and host-faced Aunt Petunia to freak out. In the scene that follows, J.K. Rowling masterfully crafted this suspense to create an intrigue with our protagonist Harry, as there were so many questions that we could get from this couple of pages. First, what scared Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia so much? Second, who had sent these letters to Harry? Third, how did they know exactly where Harry stayed? As first it was addressed as the cupboard under the stairs, and the second time when he was given Dudley's second room, which Dudley was using to store his broken toys, which seemed a bit excessive. Okay, but then also the letter came to him addressed specifically that it was to Mr. H. Potter, the smallest bedroom, 4 Privet Drive. Where this, and the other question that we have is where these people were, like who was sending these letters and how did they know like where Harry was living? Were they spying on the Dursleys? So there were so many questions that were unanswered, and that inevitably instead it increased the suspense around Harry and his past and what his parents' past were. Because the only thing that we know till now is what Harry knows, that his parents was killed in a car crash. That's it. These letters didn't stop just here. The Dursleys were getting letters from everywhere addressed to Harry. Like they were getting letters addressed to Harry from mailbox. They were coming in from kitchen chimney. They were even rolled up within the 2 dozens of egg that they got on one day, and it was also in the milk cartons. So they had the letters addressed to Harry everywhere. After all this, instead of giving the letter to Harry, Uncle Vernon came up with another brilliant plan. I will give you few seconds to think, like what a normal man would do. Just think. Okay, couldn't figure it out? Let me help. Uncle Vernon's great plan was, let's go for a drum roll, run away. Yes. Uncle Vernon decided that we should run away from their home where they were living to somewhere else, because apparently there was letter that was addressed to Harry and he didn't want to give it to him. Wow. So Uncle Vernon drove and drove with the whole family in his car, as he wanted to shake them off. It's so dumb that even the dumb pig with a wig came up with a sensible statement. Daddy's gone mad, hasn't he? At last, Uncle Vernon found a perfect place, a broken down house in the middle of the sea with constant waves crashing through these walls. So, once they reached there, it was almost midnight. Everyone went to sleep. But Harry was still awake, looking at the time on Dudley's watch, as it was 5 minutes past. It was 5 minutes to go to Harry's 11th birthday. Since Dudley got 37 gifts, he should also get some, right? Okay, I know I'm not being realistic that Dursleys will not give Harry these many gifts, but so they might have given him at least 5 gifts, right? Because, yeah, Dudley gets 37, Harry should at least get 5, right? Am I wrong? Okay, what about 1? At least 1. We don't know what gift they would give him. Like, it's a thing for the future. Let's see. Okay, now the best way to understand is what they gave him last time, so that we can think accordingly and come to understanding like what would be the gift that they would give him this year. So last year, the Dursleys gave him a coat hanger, and a pair of Uncle Vernon's old socks. Again, I'm repeating it because I might not be clear. Last year, the Dursleys gave Harry a coat hanger and a pair of Uncle Vernon's old socks. Wow, that's so thoughtful of them. Like, see how useful these gifts are. Rather than a racing bike or even a second television set, they are giving him a coat hanger, which apparently he doesn't have a coat, but a coat hanger might come in useful, and also a pair of Uncle Vernon's old socks. So this Uncle Vernon guy would almost be 35 to 40 years of age, and Harry is a 10-year-old child. So giving, okay, why am I justifying them? Let me take a second to breathe and calm down. Again, let's come to the chapter. Otherwise, I will go in this tangent of just rhyming about the Dursleys. It just makes me so angry. Before the clock struck 12, there was a loud boom. The whole shackle shivered, and Harry sat bolt upright, staring at the door. Someone was outside knocking to come in. Alas, that's it. Unfortunately, that's the end of this chapter, and that's the end of this episode. What a cliffhanger! It was a really quick read, I would say, these two chapters, because I remember taking more time reading through this chapter when I first read them, but probably it might be because I was a child and now I'm a grown man with midlife crisis, even though I'm not even 30. That's enough of projecting my life onto you all. Thank you all for listening through the second episode of Can't I Potter. And if you feel that someone from your friend or family group who likes Harry Potter and would enjoy this podcast, do share this with them. This would help me out so much, and obviously that person also, because they might also be looking for something new that's related to Harry Potter, and I'm here to provide that throughout the series. So apart from this, just take your 2 minutes time, because now I'll be playing an important message that would help improve this podcast.
Like I had mentioned during the episode about a way you can help my podcast. For that, I have created a Buy Me a Coffee account. The link is www.buymeacoffee/can'tIpotter. When you will go to this page, you can donate for this podcast or become a member. Since this podcast is something that I had started as just a passion project, I want you all to participate in this cause. That is why I have kept the base membership of this podcast for just $3. I will be using these donations for the improvement of this podcast, and my first checklist is to buy a good mic that will improve this quality that you are currently hearing. As of now, I am recording from my smartphone speaker, so that's why the audio quality is not the best. One more initiative that I will be starting with your donation is, for every member that I would be having in Buy Me a Coffee/Can't-I-Potter account, I will be donating $1. That is, I will be donating $1 per member for a charitable cause every month from the donations that you will be giving for my Buy Me a Coffee account. And this charity will be chosen by you all members who would be there in my account, and the list of these charities I will be uploading every month, and through a poll you can vote for the charity that you want to donate for, and the charity with the most votes, we will be donating $1 per month every month for that particular charitable cause. The catalyst for this charity is my parents, because I have seen how difficult it was for them to earn the daily bread and also afford to give a good quality education for me and my sibling. Now, since I am in a position where I can afford to help someone out, I would like to share this thing with someone who is in need. That's one main reason also why I'm asking for donations from you all, so that we as a team can help others also in need. Also, this is not at all compulsory that you have to give a part of your hard-earned money to some guy on the internet whom you have never met. You can help this podcast, and I would be really glad if you can just take your time to give a good review of this podcast or send a mail at cantipotterpodcast@gmail.com if you have any suggestions in which way I can improve this podcast further. Thank you. Until next time.
Mischief managed.